Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I've got a really great friend on. One of the biggest, boldest, badass adventurers I know, Andrea Klein. She's this. Just when I watch, you got to be on her Facebook or Instagram. You got to know her is to watch what it means to be untethered and to be able to go and really adventure, experience life as an adventure. Andrea, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I've always wanted to say that.
Well, listen. Having you is just like it's like this thing for me. Watching you in your life, last time I saw you were in Everest Base Camp,
Yeah,
and I'm like, wait, by yourself. First of all,
by myself.
By yourself. Yeah. I want an audience. Yeah, I mean, look, it's one thing to go to
Nepal.
Go to Everest, go to Nepal. I mean, that in itself is odd. I've been there, and it's a unique tribe of people.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Nepal it's one of those places that you have an experience. It's not like something you do, it's just what you feel. Something happens inside of you when you're in Nepal. It's pulling me back. Like my DNA, it's there. It's going back. Yeah. And you can't get that just anywhere.
No, I mean, there's something about those people that are, it's real. It brings you back to kind of ancient cultures.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's all part of their spirituality. It's not just their behavior, their mannerisms, but it's within them, and that's why I think you can feel it everywhere within the people, the architecture, the food. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, but to go there, I went there with my cousin, and we're two men, right? And and it's not necessarily I would not imagine that it was it's a little different for you as a single woman.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk a little bit about that because I think there's lots of great, my daughters, my wife, what does it mean to travel alone on some of these big adventures that you do?
What do it means? Well, I think it's not for everybody, and it takes a certain kind of person to want to do it. And I don't think you wake up and your first thing you think is, I'm going to go to Nepal by myself and try the Mount Everest base camp. There's like baby steps involved. Yeah, I've got girlfriends who get nervous taking an Uber, so I'm like, let's do that, and then we'll deal with Nepal in a couple of years. So yeah, it's a gradual thing, and I don't ever do anything that without calculating the risk. So I do like big adventures, but I like to calculate the risk. How do they view women there? Or what's the crime rate? Or ask women that have already done it and then start mapping my course. So that's what I did. I thought it through.
There's something about going, so when I went to Nepal, my first couple of days, I was by myself. I was, before I got to meet my cousin, he was in a monastery, and he was up in one of the monasteries, and he spent 30 days in a silent retreat. And I had to go to the monastery, and it took me a couple of days to get there.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was great. I mean, I got to be silent for a couple of days, which, I'm a yapper.
Yeah.
And, finding that inner being, that inner silence was a wonderful experience. I had this just great breakthrough in life. But, traveling by yourself, there was a lot of it was different than traveling with my family.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're it's like, I was reflecting the other day on that trip, there were other people that were doing the same hike to the base camp that I was, but everybody else, at least that I noticed, had a partner or a husband or a wife or two guys or two girls together. And every now and then I'd see one gets tired. So the other one, well, I'll carry your backpack for a while. Or today, how about I carry the snacks and you don't, just this helping each other out. And at the end of the day, when you feel like death, to just have someone there to comfort you and get your food for you, and not having that, I didn't feel resentful because I'm like, I signed up for this, but it made me realize how much endurance it takes to do these things alone. And I wouldn't have experienced that type of endurance had I had a partner. And endurance, for me personally, I like knowing what I can possibly bear. Yeah. Like, how much can I endure?
Well, there's like a knowing, right? Like on the other side of going through tough things, there's this knowing that we get that, I don't know that any of us were ever trained. I mean, in fact, I wasn't. I grew up, my mother, I never wanted for anything. If I was hungry, I got fed. If I felt uncomfortable, I was weaned. There was never a time where anybody taught me that it's okay to be uncomfortable.
Right.
That you are pretty, right. There's not much of that in our culture. I mean, maybe that's out of love, right? It wasn't out of malevolence, out of pure love, but right, to go through what you go through there, like, I watched you go through that. You were definitely public about it. And I got to see you go through, some altitude
Oh
issues
yeah.
and right.
There
That
was
was
a
a
lot of
lot.
sickness and a lot of yeah, it was a very expensive helicopter ride to the back to the hospital. Um, yeah, it's so crazy. I find myself saying like, that was horrible, that sucked, but like, God, I gotta do it again. So yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go back in a few months, just give it another try.
Hey,
Yeah.
listen, if you don't want to go alone this time, let us know.
Okay.
I'm definitely down for that ride. So as you start to really, get in tune with that, I want to go back a little bit. Where does this start? Where's the first time that you decided to go off on this adventure? Because, I've watched you go through a lot of them. This is
Hmm.
not, guys, honest, we're going to get into some of her travels. There's a lot of adventures that,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
talk to me about where does this start? Where does this start out for you?
It starts out for me probably about age 10 when my mom would come home from I was raised in a little town with like one stoplight in this really unusual closed off fundamentalist religious organization. Okay, so I wasn't allowed to have like associations or friends from school. So after school you come straight home. You couldn't associate with kids from school after school. It was really, well, when you're raised that way, you think it's normal. But I look back now and I'm like, oh, that's so weird. No wonder I messed up. But anyway, so raised in this kind of like isolated community, my mom would go to the grocery store and get like every week the grocery store would have encyclopedias. You could buy one a week. I don't know how much it was.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so like one week she'd have like A and B she'd come home with, and then C and D she'd come home with. And it was like this window into a new world. And they were like black and white encyclopedias. But I remember just like sitting on the couch and looking at all these pictures of countries and cities around the world. And I thought, I don't know how I'm ever going to
Mm.
do this, but I'm going to get to all these places. And that was just seeing it in black and white. And so it just, since then, it has been an obsession. And I don't use that word lightly.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with is traveling and is experiencing as much of the world as I possibly can before I die.
That's light that though, what's amazing is you light that candle and
Yeah.
that travel starts to happen, right? So talk to me about your first your younger travel when
Yeah.
you start seeing the world.
Okay. So when I was probably like 15 or 16, I happened upon like a chain letter. I don't know if you remember those from like when we were
Yeah.
kids. Of
Yeah.
course, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so in this course of a chain letter, I got this ad. There was an address on there of this girl that lived in London. And I thought, oh, it was like a little window that like there's a person out there and I have her address and she's from this place called London. It's not part of what I'm supposed to do to follow the chain letter. I'm just going to write her a letter and see if she'll be my friend. And so I did. And she wrote me back and we started this correspondence. So after writing her for a few months, I remember thinking like, I gotta go, I gotta go. How do I get to London? How do I get to London? And I was 16 and I asked my parents if I can save my own money for this ticket to London, can I go? And they said, yes, but you're going to have to save every dollar yourself. So I was like, okay, I can do this. I will save this money. I called the travel agent. The ticket was like $800. And being in a little town, the only place I could get a job was McDonald's. So I thought, okay, let's go. And I remember I worked at McDonald's job. I made $4.16 an hour. And
Oh,
that's how I saved my first $800 for that first ticket to London. And once I saw that, and that was just London. Now I look at London as like, oh, maybe we'll go this weekend.
yeah, yeah,
But
right, right,
at the
right, right.
time, it was like I was on another planet. So when I got home from that trip, I was like, I'll work at McDonald's forever if this means I can travel. Let's go. So it was game on after that. And I did that trip by myself. I forgot about that. My parents did let me do that by myself. So yeah, that was pretty
Wow.
unique. Hmm.
So and you made your own money. I mean,
Yeah.
and what you guys are going to know about her as well is she's a great entrepreneur, right? So is that
Trying.
where the idea of I can make my own money starts to happen?
Oh yeah, 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 of course. I mean, also part of this cult-like organization that I was raised in, it was heavily, I even to even say discouraged. It was not allowed, okay? It was not allowed to get a university education. So I went to high school knowing I wouldn't go to college. So maybe I'd have to think of something I could do with a trade if I was ever going to need to support myself. But fortunately, I got married at 19. I didn't have to worry about supporting myself. So I was able to kind of like push this entrepreneurial spirit to the side till I realized I didn't want to be married. And who you marry when you're
Mm,
19 probably isn't your ideal life partner.
mm.
And that's when I had to make a plan. And that's when being an entrepreneur with a trade saved my life.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So you escaped this marriage?
Yeah. And I hate to, the word escape is so dramatic. I can say escape from the cult because that was, that's nuts. But I had
Yeah.
to leave the marriage.
Yeah.
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 It was painful, but it wasn't harrowing like some women go through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I got it. So now you're 19 years old.
Yeah.
You've just left a marriage. You've left this cult,
Well, no,
and now,
19, I got married and I just started this journey within the cult, within the marriage. The whole leaving didn't start till actually like 7 years ago. It's not that long
oh wow,
ago. Yeah.
oh wow,
It's kind of
oh okay,
recent. Yeah.
wow, I didn't know that. That's so
Yeah.
all this stuff happens in the last 7 years.
Hmm.
Oh, that's
I
interesting.
got my freedom and I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm making all the money I can and traveling. Are you coming with me or not?
Well, no, you've got some great. You start your own. You got a great salon and spa,
Yeah, well,
right?
now I do. Yeah, I didn't start out that way, of course. I knew if I wanted to eventually leave that marriage, I needed a way to support myself at 34 years old and no degree, no, just no skills, nothing. Um, so I remember actually, this is a really, really pivotal moment in my life. I was at an esthetician in the town I live in, and I was getting a bikini wax, and she's doing my bikini wax, and we're just laughing and talking. And at the end of the wax, I go to pay her. And I think after the tip and everything, the check came, it was like $40. And all of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, she made $40 in 15 minutes. And we had fun. We laughed. She was alone in this cute space. And I got to my car and started doing math. And I was like, that's $160 an hour. You multiply that times per week, it's over like $6,000 a week. And it was like mind boggling. I'm like, I could do bikini waxes all day and make almost $500,000 a year. So at that point, I remember that day I went home and that's when the plan started. I couldn't say my plan, but I had to kind of drop hints. Like I told my husband, I know I can't go to university. That's forbidden, but maybe I go to beauty school because beauty school is pretty low in the totem pole of academics. And he was like, yeah, you can go to beauty school. So that's when the plan started taking shape.
So yeah, look, so that starts to take shape, and you get yourself into beauty
Yeah.
school.
Hmm.
Are you working for somebody else at the time?
I've never worked for somebody else in this business. Nope. I just started on my
Wow.
own right out the gate.
Wow.
Sink or swim.
Yeah, so you set up shop where?
I had a friend who owned a salon in town, and she had an empty room in the back of her shop that she let me rent. So I started, and it was just this little like 10 by 10 windowless room. And I started back there, and I made sure I learned skills that were popular other places, but not so much in my area yet. I thought, if I can get good at this stuff and nobody else is doing it, that I can kind of like capitalize and I can charge anything I want. So that really helped starting, building a foundation, getting good at one thing and being the girl to go to for that one thing. And that was a good, platform to just build from.
I hate to ask, but what was the one thing?
I cannot even believe you can make a career out of this, but it was eyelash extensions. And at the time, I didn't even wear mascara or eyeliner, or I washed my face with like zest. And the idea of learning eyelash extensions, I thought, you've got to be freaking kidding me. But when I saw people like this, people do it, and you can make like, I don't know, I think I charged like $75 an hour to do that. And I did it all day till my back ached. I'm like, that's okay. I'll take another client. Come on in. I'll do it.
And that's how you do it, right? When the beginning days of being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, You do what it takes, and
Absolutely.
it's just relentless. I don't care what it is. If it's eyelash extensions in the back room of a friend's salon or starting any business, it's the
Yeah.
same behavior. It's just relentless, never stopping, continuous, giving everything you got every moment.
It's a grind. Yeah, but that's how you get good. You got to
Yeah.
just do
Yeah.
it till you don't, so it's not hard anymore. You
Well,
know?
so you got to mess a couple things up. You got to do
Oh,
mess.
a lot.
What was your favorite mess up? You got a story you can go back and remember did you glue
Yeah.
anybody's eyelashes together?
No, but I've had a couple of really bad things happen in that
No.
room because I was by myself. I mean,
Ah.
yeah. Real quick, I can tell you. I guess it doesn't really matter now because I've overcome them. But once was not right when I first started this business. I thought, ooh, waxing, so profitable, like low cost of consumables. It's fast service. I can do this. But I was a little presumptuous. It's like one of my first clients. I got all the wax on her bottom so she could be hot and ready for spring break, and the wax wouldn't come off.
Oh.
She had a crotch full of hard wax, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to call. I don't know.
So you're sitting there with hot wax on this woman, and you're looking at her going, all right, now how'd you pull it off?
I didn't. I was like, I literally had been in business for like 2 weeks. I did not know really how all this stuff worked. It just worked in school. And when this wax I used and this person in their skin, I was like, I am so sorry. Now I'm really good at troubleshooting and problem
Yeah,
solving. But
right.
10 years ago, I was like, this sucks. I'm sorry. You're going to have to go home like this and figure it out. I know. So that's really
So,
bad. But don't
no,
worry. I've come a long way.
no, but you got to go through that. Look, I
Yeah.
think that's the part that you fake it till you make it, and you know. People look at me and go, "Man, you're so good at doing this." I'm like, "Look, if you messed up as many things
Yeah.
as I've messed up
Oh,
in my
man.
career, you get good at you just get good at stuff, right? You
Yeah.
learn from your mistakes. And I think that's the part that people don't get. It's like, look, you got to stand in, Jordan Peterson says it best. You got to be willing to stand in the fool to become the master.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And it takes a little
Yeah.
bit of foolishness to get there. And
Oh, yeah.
it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Don't feel like you're the only one. Every single master was a fool at one point.
Yeah. Every single master's had a crotch full of hot wax.
So you're sitting there with you got the hot. Do you ever see her again? You ever see the customer again?
Nope.
No. Is she gonna come back for another one?
Mm-mm.
All right.
Nope.
All right.
I couldn't win that one back.
Yeah.
That was just a loss. That was my worst one. But I've done all
Yeah.
kinds of things, wrong. That was really horrible. But
Nice.
yeah.
So all right. So all these adventures, and let's kind of go through some of the adventures you've been on. I kind of want to find. Let's talk a little bit about all the different places that you've been around.
Okay. Where have I been around?
So we got Nepal. I saw you in Tokyo.
Yeah, I was in Tokyo a few weeks
Japan.
ago.
Yeah, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I've been a little bit of everywhere. I mean, I like doing things so I can have a cool experience. Like a few years ago, my daughter was getting her driver's license. I was like, I've heard that there's like all these really, I hate to say country roads. It's not country roads, but just like back roads in Iceland and India. My daughter was 15. And I was like, let's go to Iceland and you can learn how to drive there. Wouldn't that be fun instead of like doing it at home in the cornfields? So I've like packed India up and we rented a car and that's where she learned to drive was like in the wilderness of Iceland. So
That's
it's
fun.
just,
That's an awesome adventure.
yeah,
I think that's what makes, and now you inspire her, right?
yeah,
I think that's a gift right there. Is that now you light her candle and say, look,
yes,
this doesn't have to be this scary thing that we do.
right.
My parents weren't that nice to me. I had to drive with my stepfather, and he was not the most talented gift giver. He was scary. He
Hmm.
scared I was nervous the entire time, and I made me more nervous. You know. So I finally learned that when my mother would go to school, I would go to the she went to this college
Hmm.
at night, and I would go to school with her, and I'd go to the gym, and when she
Okay.
was in class, I would take her car out, right? So I would drive it around campus, and the truth was that's how I learned to drive.
Yeah.
I would drive by myself all around campus
Yeah.
while she was in class, and then I'd get it back just enough time to cool it off.
She would
But
know.
yeah, so she wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But it was you know, it was great. That's how I learned to drive, because driving my stepfather, he was a little scary. You know, yeah, you know, just like the whole time I'm like, oh my god, just sweating the whole time.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so all right, you're in Tokyo. I saw you at Sedona.
Yeah,
With yeah,
Sedona. I've been hike. I've been to the Amazon a few times. I like adventures, but like I said, like calculated adventures. So yeah, I've taken actually one time took both kids, and the second time my son and I just did like an expedition in the Amazon for like a week or two. Um,
nice.
yeah, so gosh, I like put on the spot. I don't know why I'm having a hard time thinking of things, but
No, no,
Egypt,
you have,
pyramids, just the
yeah,
stuff.
no, Egypt, the pyramids, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Is there a place that you think back of when people ask you what's your favorite? I mean, that's a hard one to answer because like there's different parts of them that are their favorite. But is there one that you go, yeah, that one kind of always kind of resonates as one of your favorite places you've been?
Yeah, I've always equated choosing my favorite country to choosing my favorite child. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they
it's
each
hard, right?
have something different about them. It's hard to pick. But for a while, I was madly in love with the Venice. I would spend a month or two there every year because it was just so, I hate to use this word, it sounds corny, but it felt magical. It
Yeah,
just
yeah.
did. And I was there enough, I made friends. But something happened when I was in Nepal a few months ago in Kathmandu. That was just a viscerally overwhelming experience. And I fell in love. I already bought my ticket. I'm already going back in October. Yeah, that's
Nice.
a really special place.
I feel like those are the kind of places that change you forever, right?
Hmm.
It's a piece of that. Like India was like that for me. Nepal it had some special stuff, but
Hmm.
India was like that. The flavors,
Oh, yeah.
the poverty, the
India is
just the not.
intense.
Oh, intent. Like it's like cow. Oh,
Full sensory.
yeah,
Yeah.
no monkeys. Just full tilt on,
Hmm.
uh, overwhelming, but it was beautiful, and I felt safe. Truth was, I thought I wouldn't be with that many people, but
Yeah.
I probably felt less safe around the monkeys than anything
Yeah.
else. But yeah, I kept worrying they're going to steal my glasses or something. But
Yeah.
you know, overall, I felt the people were relatively easy, and
Interesting, because somebody just asked me yesterday, where do you feel unsafe when you travel? And I'm like, the Middle East and India. And
okay.
it's not that I wouldn't go back to those places or I didn't love them, but just being alone as a female, maybe it was just the heaviness of the male gaze is unnerving for me, as it is, I think, for most women. Yeah.
All right, so my daughters felt the same way. My
Okay.
daughters felt the same way. Like in India, they felt like they were looking through their clothes, through their
Yeah.
wanting to come up and touch them. They were literally
Yeah.
physically
Yeah.
confronted a few times, and we had to like set some real standards for folks. And you
Yeah.
know, protective dad, I got a little into it, and yeah. So for them, it was
It's different.
definitely
Yeah.
culturally there's a much different. So, what places do you feel like as a woman you have to pay more attention?
Those places. And I'm not
Yeah,
even saying because it's real. I want to emphasize that. Like, I don't want women to watch this and think, well, I'm not going to go to India now or the Middle East. It's just where I felt, and whether I feel it makes it real or not, it's just how I felt was I feel like I should be a little bit more cautious. That having been said, I feel that every time I'm in a dark parking lot in Chicago
sure.
or Indianapolis, so that's just something I think as women, we're just always have to be more vigilant about and sensitive to is just our surroundings.
Has there been any place that you've been, or maybe what's the place you've been that where you've sensed that this could go horribly wrong, and how did it turn out?
I've always had everything turn out fine. I think maybe I've just been lucky so far, but I feel like I
Mm,
also I'm probably overly cautious about where I go and when going in. I'm not out at bars at night by myself. I feel like I can have a lot of fun between like sunrise and sunset, and
yeah.
I can wear a turtleneck and wear a wedding ring whether I'm married or not. That doesn't always help, but you know, yeah, for me personally, like I don't have anything to prove by being out on the town at night in a foreign third world country. Like, mm-mm,
Yeah.
I just
Let's,
don't.
so let's talk about a little bit about protocol.
Okay.
So look, I think it's important. You got to create your own protocol. So you
Mhm.
start to look at, all right, I'm going to travel. I'm traveling by myself. So before you get there, kind of what's the steps before I get there?
Yeah, it's this, and this also could reflect just how I was raised or myself. So I just don't want people to, or other women especially, to think they're going to be safe if they do this. But in my own head, I think I try to blend in, you know, just like
Like you belong
modest
there. Yeah.
black. Yeah, looking at
Yeah.
my, or, just no jewelry, nothing. Um, don't make eye contact with men that are off by themselves. Just always look like I'm going somewhere, even if I have no idea where I'm going. I am walking to that place with determination, um, and not being out at night. I mean, that's just when stuff happens. If I'm
Especially,
going to, use transportation, Uber there and back, but it's just how it goes. You're going to miss some
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I got it. Look, even I do that. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
care where I'm at, where I'm traveling. I don't want to look like a tourist. Excuse me. I don't want to sound like a tourist. I want to, because what happens is no matter where you're going, or even in Chicago,
Yeah.
somebody will pluck you off, and although I always feel like I want to protect our tourists. When someone tells me somebody here in Chicago did something bad, I want to go defend them
Yeah.
because I want people to have a great experience here.
Right.
But if you were to look back and make a movie out of your travels, what might what might you call it? Might you call the adventure?
It had to have something. Two words come to mind, and it's courage and bravery. And
There
that
we go.
ultimately is the formula to freedom. It all comes
Yeah.
back to freedom for me. But being free, whether it's free to feel comfortable traveling solo or leaving a marriage or starting a business, to get that freedom takes some courage and it takes some bravery. And so, yeah, I think that, I don't know what I would call it, but I think that would be in the tagline.
Let's kind of delve in a little bit because I think this is something that I want for my daughters and the females in my life. Right, there's a place where maybe even indoctrinated into a society where this subservient women dominated our culture for a long time. For sure, we're breaking out of it. We've
Mhm.
made miles, but we still have steps to go.
Yeah.
Right, and there's knowing for me as a man, I didn't experience that, right? I don't
Mhm.
have the connection to that you guys do. But as you look at, or maybe there are, maybe some, I could say there are some things where I had to fend for myself, but maybe it's a lot easier for men because you're kind of expected to.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, that's
you know,
true.
yeah, but for you, as you start to get freedom and freedom, I think your freedom is different than captured freedom. It's more freedom, that knowing freedom.
It's mental freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's freedom from a heavy, heavy burden. Yeah. For me, it was like living my life thinking I had a terminal illness only to find out I was never actually sick. And when you realize that, it's like, oh my God, I feel like I have superpowers now. I can do anything. I'm not going to die. Even though I know, I mean, I am going to die like everybody else, but not in the way I
Yeah.
thought I was going to die, at the hands of a cranky God. So,
What was the biggest act of kindness that you've experienced out there? Something that was palpable. Something that, while you're traveling. The
oh
biggest.
man, you know, I think I love people. I love meeting people. And I have this thing when I travel. People that know me well know what I mean when I say, well, I'm going to pound the pavement and start door knocking, because that's what I was raised to do. But now I do it in a way to just make friends, and it's not awkward for me. So having done my door knocking throughout the world, going in a shop, seeing women working in their garden and their lawn, I have built actual genuine friendships with women around the world. And as far as a specific act of kindness, well, probably it'd be that man that carried me up a mountain and put me on that helicopter when I got sick at Everest Base Camp. But other than that, it's just knowing that I have these resources.
Yeah.
I can sleep on her couch. She'll pick me up from the airport. I can call her when I'm having a hard time at home. And these are just people that we have, we are from two different hemispheres. but we speak the same language on so many things. Yeah.
Like two spirits that come together
Yeah.
in this love for each other, kind
Yeah.
of on a cellular
Yeah.
level. I've
Yeah.
gotten that, yeah. But with people I've traveled with and people I don't even know, then all of a sudden I have this great kinship with that, it's kind of palpable. So, if
Yeah.
you had to, if you had to settle down and, excuse me, I had lunch just before the podcast and I keep having a frog pop up. If you had to settle down in a country based solely on the food, is there
Oh,
one what food might you go? I'd stop. This is it.
okay. I love hot dogs. Like,
Wait a minute,
that is
like
my jam.
Chicago style,
Like Oscar
Chicago.
Mayer style. Yes. I know it's weird, but I love hot dogs. I can't say I would move based on where the best hot dog was, but yeah, I really like the mobility and the portability of a hot dog. So I always gravitate to those. But as far as
Right.
really uprooting and moving based on food, gosh, I just eat to live because I just want to keep going. And if something amazing happens to fall on my plate, that's just the icing on the cake.
How many countries are there like floating around in the back of your mind that you're ready to go to? You got some stuff you're thinking about?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go back to Nepal in October. I'm going to do the Annapurna hike. Oh, actually, I have forgot. I'm also going to go to Tibet. I'm going to spend a week or so in Tibet and then go to Nepal and do some more hiking and see if I don't die. If I don't die, then I'm redoing Everest again. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but other than that, the two things that are like on the horizon, one is there's this Dutch tall ship. It's over 100 years old, but it's a working ship and it sails to Antarctica. And
Whoa.
so, yeah, so it's really expensive, at least for my budget. It's like, I think it's $15,000 for 3 weeks, but you get a job on this tall, it's like a Pirates of the Caribbean ship, but you sail to Antarctica.
You
So
get to
I'm
be a
like,
pirate.
I get to
You're
be a
like a
pirate.
pirate.
Yeah.
Arr, you get an eye patch and stuff.
I'm gonna get a peg leg, the whole bit.
Arr, you just gotta start growling at people when you see it.
Yeah.
You gotta it's all right. So speaking of Dutch ships, what country is the best to flirt in?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I've ever done that before.
Oh, come on, who's got the cutest? Who's got the cutest guys?
You know, I would say cutest as far as like
Yeah,
hubba hubba would be
yeah,
Italy.
yeah.
But
Hey, I love
I
my
mean,
Italian guys.
right. But as far as just like actually beautiful, as far as like features and bone
Yeah.
structure, Egypt. Even the
Oh.
hobos are like Pharaoh. I mean, every person I saw was like high cheekbones, this dark skin, and I'm like, genetically, they've got it going on.
Yeah, think about thousands of years of breeding, up,
Uh-huh.
just proper breeding has got there. Have you ever had to explain anything awkward uh, as you're going through customs or going through airport security about something you've taken home?
Oh, taken home, I was going a different direction. Well, awkward? No, but I've had a medical condition that happened in Italy, and I wasn't able to speak the language, so I had to gesture what I was feeling to the pharmacist. And it was an itch where you don't want to gesture in public. And I'm like, I need this medicine. I need it now. Nobody knows me here, so this is and the only way I can let this man know is
You're like,
that was horrible. I'll never go to that pharmacy again. But I did get the medicine.
no way! Oh my god! So hold on, I gotta see the visual here. So now you're in there, and you're like doing
Yes.
this stretching. Okay,
Mhm.
I got it. I got it. Oh, okay,
I was
okay.
like, and
That's
making the face like, this is bad. It worked. That is a universal. Just in case you may need
yeah.
to know that.
There's a universal figure for jock itch. I got a little itch on here. I got a or what do you guys call it? So, um,
Mhm.
have when you tell your family about all this travel? I mean, there's got to be a lot of, look, they're not. You come from a very conservative background where women don't
Mhm.
do this stuff,
Nobody
right?
does it.
Right? No,
Yeah.
not even your family. It's got to be, you say your customers, the people, the women in
Right.
your life.
Yeah.
All of them got to. What's the most common reaction you get about it?
Well, as far as my family, I usually, if I'm doing something like, that could be a little going to the Amazon or going to Asia or something, I just don't tell them. And my mom, when I was a kid, she'd say things like, I'd leave a friend's house and she was like, you don't have to worry about calling me when you get home. If it's really bad, it'll be on the news. That was just kind of how she looked at hearing about things. So I've kind of taken that mentality. It's like, nobody needs to know. So there's nothing to worry about. And if it's really bad, they'll see it on the news.
Yeah, I guess right. I mean, look,
Hmm.
if it's that bad,
It'll
yeah,
be on the news.
yeah, no, it's has there ever been a place where you thought it was going to go that bad?
Oh, I was in an earthquake in Rome a few years ago. The hotel was shaken. Narrowly missed that earthquake in Tibet a few months ago. Oh, I was in Hawaii when they had that nuclear missile crisis thing. We were all thought we were going to die. Do you remember that?
Whoa,
Like 4 years
yeah,
ago?
yeah,
Yeah, me and
yeah.
my kids, we were like in this bunker and they called their dad and were saying their goodbyes. And I was like, well, I didn't think I was going to go out like this, but all right, here we go. And then the red light, the bright light never came.
Wow, yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of that's crazy. Yeah, I think they had a couple things happen there. There was also some sort of leak. They had some sort of underground storage. Maybe they're like
Oh,
fuel storage bins that were happening there as well. They had a bunch of stuff happening down in Hawaii. I guess with all the military stuff there, of course, they had
yeah.
a bunch of opportunity for that. You know, that's when you think about that, is there any of the countries you've been to that you kind of feel like, all right, maybe that's a toxic country. I never need to go back there.
Oh, that's a good one. A country. I don't think so. I don't know. So far, I haven't been to a country that I would never go back to because there's a part of that country that I haven't seen. And I don't want to pass judgment based on just this little tiny corner that I
No,
saw or one person that made me uncomfortable. It's like I'm not gonna no,
I can judge the whole country by it.
no.
Yeah,
Oh,
is there? Go
I
ahead.
thought of something. I am going to France on in 2 days. Um, this is you'll think this is cool. I've been to France like 100 times, but this trip, I'm taking my daughter. Her name's India, and we are doing a road trip. She's driving
Where are you going?
in northern France.
Okay, northern.
So
Okay,
yeah, and so we are going to trace the life and death of Joan of Arc through a road trip through
awesome,
France. I know. We're doing
awesome.
that
That's
on
awesome.
Monday. Yeah, because I feel like Joan of Arc, she's like the icon of bravery and
Yeah.
courage. And just in order to just encapsulate that more into myself, into my work, into my businesses, into my projects, India was like, let's just go. Let's just relive the life and death that we're going to go to all the
Okay.
places. Yeah.
So my family and I have a practice when we travel the world. We take a dollar bill and we write all of our names, the date we're on there, and we hide it all over our trips.
Okay.
Right. So everywhere we go, we have this like whole wardrobe full of pictures with, all these places we've hid the dollar. And my real goal was, as my kids got older,
Yeah.
I'd give them a credit card and say, you and your kids go find the money, right? I was going to fund their
Mhm.
ventures, right?
Yeah.
And they've taken it on, right? Do you have something you do that's your practice that you
Hmm.
stamp your journeys with?
Yeah. No. I should think of something like that
Take it on.
though.
Wait, hold on. Hide
Yeah.
the dollars. Here, then I ask you to take on hiding the dollar bills and taking pictures and leaving them for us to go find, right? Because
That's good.
I love that we do that for friends. Like
Yeah.
we've got a couple in the Coliseum, and every time my friend goes, friends would go to a Coliseum, we always tell them where it's at.
Yes.
We've had several friends
That's
find our
cool.
dollar bill, and then they write their name on it with their
Is it
family's name
still
on
there
it.
at the Coliseum? 'Cause I'm going to be at the Coliseum
Absolutely.
in a few weeks.
We here absolutely. There's two of them there now. We were
Okay.
just there maybe in November, so that was
Okay.
like 5 months ago. We were just there, and so we went there. I didn't think the dollar bill was still there, and I went up thinking I'm going to just hide another dollar bill because
Yeah.
it's never really about the dollar bill. It's more about
Right. Right.
going
Right.
to the spot,
Yeah.
right? So we go up there, and I'm going to put the other one in, and boom, the other dollar is there, and I pull them down, and I got a picture with both dollar bills
I'm
now,
doing that.
and it's yeah.
I'm
So
going to
here,
find your dollar at the Coliseum.
I'll show here. I'll
Okay.
send you. I have clear coordinates how to
Okay.
get there.
It's
It's a
on.
lot of fun to go find that dollar bill.
That's my new thing now, finding your dollars.
I think that's a fun thing. Like I've got friends who now got into it and now they
Mhm.
hide dollar bills when they travel. And it's
Huh.
just more about this adventure that, that's it's kind of an added little plus to go, hey,
Yeah.
your buddy was there. My friend
Yeah.
Kali, him and his daughter were in France. So I did a daddy daughter trip with Fia, my youngest.
Uh-huh.
All my kids get a daddy daughter trip when they
Yeah. I
turn
think I saw
7.
that.
Yeah, and Sophia did it a little later. Where do you think all the kids normally want to go?
Paris?
No,
Oh,
no,
Disneyland or something like
Disney
that?
World.
Yeah.
Yeah, every kid wants to go to Disney World,
Yeah.
and that kid goes, I'm going to Paris,
Good for her.
and
That's my girl.
that,
Yeah.
that's what I said. I'm like, that's that go kid,
Hmm.
and so we had so much fun. We went around. We took those little lime scooters. We rode
Yes.
those all
Oh,
around
all
Paris.
over. Yeah.
I mean, for 3 days, her and I.
That's
And
awesome.
so what mom did was Sophia. She put together a scavenger hunt for us,
Okay.
right? And she kind of gave us a list of
Okay.
things to go hunt down. I'm
Hmm.
like, thanks for. She kind of helped out with the adventure, and
Hmm.
Fee and I would just go. And my friend Kali had just been there, and
Hmm.
him and his daughter left some dollar bills around town for us. So it was like this, great little
Yeah.
we had things to go do, and it kind of gave us something fun to go do there.
And it unites everybody. You
Yeah,
know, your
yeah,
friends feel a part of it, and it just makes we're all connected. You know,
that's right.
yeah, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about, when we're traveling, we've done a couple trips where we try to go, I love learning about other people's religions. So
Mm.
we did a TV show where we went around the world as a family and we did, I don't know, 5 continents, 8 countries. We did, each country we would do one religion, like we'd get into their religion, whatever it is. I'd want to really get into it. Not even get into
Wow.
it in a couple of days, but really spend time with them and the
Wow.
people and do
I
that.
mean, that's amazing.
So kind of have some fun with that. And then
Yeah.
we would do like we do one big adventure. So whatever it was, we'd, go parasailing or swim with
Hmm.
sharks or do something fun, but we'd also do one good deed, like try to find a school to go help out with or
Yeah.
a beach to clean or just
Yeah.
something that was of service, right?
Yes.
Try to incorporate a little bit of service. Sometimes I feel
Hmm.
like we're so lucky. We're in a society that has so much luck
Oh,
and
yeah.
luck and gift.
Mhm.
Even though we work pretty hard, I feel like
Yeah.
we're gifted with all the gifts that whatever higher power we have is given us.
Yeah.
Uh, so it feels like that's become a big part of our
Yeah.
family trips where giving back's become a little bit of that. And I'm trying to incorporate that and try to sell that story to everybody. Like, all right, God, how do we get more travel and be of more service when we're out there?
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's a privilege. A lot
Yeah,
of people work hard in the
that's
world.
right. That's
Probably
right.
statistically, most people work hard, but they don't have the kind of advantages that we do on top of our hard work. We get to reap some really unique rewards. And
Yeah.
just don't, I just never would want to take that for granted.
Are there places in the world that have cultures that you think the whole world should have?
Oh, that's good. Culture's the whole interesting. You know, I was in Indonesia, um, like right after I went to Nepal. So I don't know, it's like just like a few months ago. And they were, I mean, I own a spa, okay? So you would think being in a spa and the spa atmosphere would feel normal to me, or what I would experience in a spa in Bali would be similar to what you experience at my spa. It is not the same experience. There is something about the way those, as far as being in spas, I was so mostly, there was just women there, but there was this kind of a genuine, oh, just this, I don't know, the sisterhood, a warmth, a comfort, uh, a feminism, a
Mm,
gentleness, a
mm,
willingness to serve from a
mm,
deep place. Like go to work and I'm like, okay, guys, these are our friends. You got to be nice. You got to show an interest in your customer. And, we go over all these bullet points. And there, I'm like, they don't have to teach each other that. You could see it was coming from within. And I have never
ooh,
experienced service that I felt across the board, not like just in one place, but just throughout the island, that this came from something deep seated and probably very spiritual in their lives. And
yeah.
that I thought, man, I'd love to replicate this, but I don't think it's possible. It's
Yeah.
just something special and unique to them. But if we could all have that, be of genuine service to each other, be out of willingness.
Hmm.
Wow. I mean,
Where does that come from, you think?
I don't know. I think we're
Yeah.
all a product of our environment. So I think
Yeah.
if you're raised seeing that that's how your parents behave, that that's just what the child's going to learn and think is normal and feel. But probably it's their religion or their spirituality that also,
Mhm.
teaches that as an important part of life. Yeah, that's my guess.
Yeah, you can feel it. I mean, there's definitely places I've been where, you can feel the way people are of service,
Yeah.
and it just feels so, I was in Thailand, and I went off to some little island, and I happened to have this little island of Koh Samui. I had this little house I stayed in with my cousin, and the lady who ran the house, like I wanted to adopt her, just like
Hmm.
she was like I wanted to bring her home. Like I felt
Yeah.
like she was as genuine as you could
Yeah.
be, and she cared, like she truly
Yeah.
cared for us, right? And
Really?
she made sure things were good and things were like it wasn't like that feeling of really being cared for was abundant. Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't out of obligation.
No.
I saw this. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but there was a movie about a terrorist attack at a fancy hotel in India a few years ago. And I watched this movie, and at the beginning of the movie, it shows the employees of the hotel like having their morning huddle, getting ready to serve their guest. And after they had their morning huddle, and they kind of like broke hands. The thing they would say to each other every day, and I'll never forget this: the guest is God.
Mm.
And I that is not just a phrase. When you laud someone as a god, how do you treat that person? But that was part of their ethos. And in that specific situation, these employees sacrificed their lives for these clients, technically, the patrons of their business. But that whole guest is God, I'm like, that's real. That's that's real.
When I was in Nepal, it was the first place where I truly had a sense for a different God than the one I grew up with. Right. And,
Okay.
and what I mean by that was I could, for the first time when I'm in this this retreat,
Mhm.
with these
Monasteries.
monks,
Okay.
monastery with
Hmm.
these monks, I could really see the God in me bowing to the God in you. I could literally
Huh.
see the gods in us. Right. What I mean by that is I almost had this sense that if there, whatever God is, it's been here for a long time,
Yeah.
and God created this playground called Earth, and we're driving this vehicle called the human. And I really had this sense, as I looked around at these beautiful little monks, and they're, kind of just how wonderful, brilliant they were. Just I could really see the God in them,
Hmm.
and to that point when you say that, I could feel that, like, I
Yeah.
we are these spiritual beings driving this hairless monkey and
Hmm.
on this big adventure of life, of
Hmm.
and the more we can do that, the more that light gets brighter.
Yeah.
And let me ask you, has your traveling made you a better human being?
I hope so. I
Yeah.
hope at the end of the day, this is all worth something besides a really cool Instagram feed. And only at the end, history, I'll only time will tell. See what my kids say about me at my funeral. I hope it's made me a better person, but it sure made me a more fulfilled and I hope understanding, empathetic person. But we're all. It's like I don't know how I'll be seen. You know?
That's
Yeah.
cool. I think there's some value in there. If your passport was a novel and you had one juicy chapter, which one would be the juiciest?
So you want to talk about countries, like which stamp or which
I don't know.
page?
You got to look at each one. Each stamp is a chapter.
You
Which
mean
is the juicy chapter?
you mean juicy like
You describe juicy, whatever your juicy is.
well, I haven't been single that long, so there's not a whole lot of juicy lately. I'm gonna have to think on that as far as like,
All right, all right.
yeah, I hadn't I didn't I haven't thought of it in that term in that way before. Had a
Well,
lot of
some of you,
fun.
listen, I've seen some of your traveling. You look pretty juicy out there. You got some hot bikinis, hot bathing suit.
Well,
I mean, just you do a good job of making it look beautiful. You have some real beautiful travel. I mean,
well,
when I watch
thanks.
your feed, it's really beautiful travel, and you can
Yeah.
see the glow in you when you're there. Like I really
Yeah.
sense that. One of my favorite parts about your traveling is seeing that glow in you. The way that you talk, it's palpable.
Yeah, I
You know,
hope.
the experience you're having in the moment.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful. All right. Well, listen, I got to tell you, for the women in my life, I want them to see your feed. If you're willing to share that with the
Hmm.
world, would you please tell people? And by the way,
Hmm.
if you're willing to, I'll put the links down below. If people want to watch your travels,
Hmm.
watch your feed, what would be that? What would they do?
Just go to Instagram's the best place. Andrea A. Klein.
I'll put that down below. You guys have got to watch her adventures. It's inspiring. You're a magnet. You're a magnet for me. Look, and I love traveling. When
Yeah.
I watch you, I think to myself, man, it's so
Yeah.
wonderful. I want the women in my life to know that,
Feel
and
it.
you make,
Hmm.
yeah, feel it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
just a big, wonderful place you've been. You're a bright light in
Thank you.
this beautiful
I think the
planet of
juicy
the world.
stuff is coming then. So ask me this time next year.
And listen, I will. I'm not letting you off the hook without some good juicy stories. Yeah.
Sounds good.
As you keep traveling, please come
Mhm.
back and share these
Sure.
adventures with us. It's
Absolutely.
awesome. Glad to have you on.
All right. Well, we'll talk again.
Hey, audience, last week it was amazing. We broke 65,000 subscribers. It was unbelievable. YouTube channel is blowing up. You guys are just, thank you very much for everything, for all the listeners. But we noticed a lot of you made it to the end of the show and you weren't subscribers. If you could just take a second and just hit the like button and subscribe, it takes 2 seconds. And it means the world to all the people in the background that put this together. There's a lot of people back there, Alyssa and Joe and the team that put this together. Get us great people like Andrea to come on the show and tell her great stories. So if you could do that now, I'd be grateful. And as always, thanks for listening.